Hello and welcome to you all. A different phase to take you through to the next upcoming sessions of this first day of MEF Connects Wholesale. My name is Suzy Menneret. I'm the Wholesale Program Lead at the Mobile Ecosystem Forum, and I'll be very happy after what James told us. We've had a number of players in so far today. We've had analysts, we have technology providers, we've had wholesalers, we've had MNOs, we've had plenty of players. We haven't spoken still yet to industry forum players, and they play a crucial role in our industry today. So I'll be very happy today to take you along this journey with a few of my colleagues in this industry. And we'll be talking about digital transformation. We'll be looking at how the industry is evolving. And with no further ado, I'd like to welcome, first of all, Annabel Helm. Hello, Annabel.
Easy. Thank you for having me.
Hello, Annabel. So Annabel is the Managing Director of the ITW Global Leadership Forum. Welcome, Annabel.
Thank you, Suzy. Nice to be here.
Thank you. I'm very pleased to also welcome Laurie Beagle. Laurie, hi. Laurie is the Operations Director of the International Telecoms Risk Forum, the ITRF. It's your first time with us in the MEF event, I believe.
It is, and it's nice to see you, Suzy.
And great to have you with us. Now I'm going to introduce you some faces that a lot of you probably know. So first of all, Simon Dodsworth. Simon is the Executive Council of the Global Solutions Council. Thank you very much, Simon. Great to have you with us.
Afternoon, Suzy.
Good afternoon. And we have Christian Michaud. Christian.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, Christian. Good to see you. Long time no see. Welcome. Welcome to this MEF event. So Christian is a long-standing member of the i3 Forum organization. Is the vice chair at the moment within i3 Forum. And last but not least, of course, we are very happy to welcome Dario, who I don't need to introduce, really, do I?
Hello, least, I should say, but I'm least.
Last but not least, my French. Hello, welcome to you all. It's a real great pleasure to have you here. So I really insisted on having this kind of panel at this event because we cannot talk about wholesale without talking about the industry forums that really are supporting this industry. And there are quite a few. So I'm really happy to have you here. We know that the industry is heavily supported by a lot of the work that you are doing. Some of you obviously know you all. I suspect the audience know you, some of you well, some of you probably less. So if I could just start by asking you to please introduce your industry forum in a few words and what the core mission of your forum is, starting with the lady, Annabel.
Thank you, Suzy. So yes, thank you for the invitation. The GLF, or the ITW Global Leaders Forum, is governed by a board that represents the global network of leaders from the world's largest international carriers. We convene to discuss strategic issues and to agree collaborative activities. And our guiding mission and principle is to uphold ubiquitous interoperability and technical coverage globally. And that's how all of our work fits together.
Thank you, Annabel. So long-standing, also been in the industry for quite some time. Thank you very much for being with us. Laurie, I'd like to ask you to introduce you next. You're probably one of those people we haven't seen in our MEF events much, and probably deserves a good introduction and a good insight into what the ITRF is doing.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed, Suzy. In fact, I was going to say exactly that, with a forum that nobody's ever heard of. So we were formed in 2001, so we've been around a few years, and we have as members all the major carriers. So it may be that if you're watching this, your company actually is a member, but you may not be aware of it. Our core mission is the management of risk, the development of best practice, and the prevention of fraud and cybercrime. It was interesting listening to the previous panel. They were talking about information sharing, and that is very much the foundation of what the ITRF has been built on, and the sharing capability which it has on a 24/7 basis. But we'll talk more about that later.
Yes, most likely, very probably, yes. So next one, I'd like to take to introduce is Simon. Simon, we had you last year already. I think it's not the first time you're coming and talking to us, but it's a real pleasure to have you once again here. For some of us, you're quite well known, but I'd like to give you an opportunity to introduce what the GSC is doing and what your core mission in the wholesale business is all about.
Thanks very much, Suzy. The Global Solutions Council is a bit of a mouthful, so with a GSC to our friends. Our fundamental aim is to be the reference for commercial resolution in telecoms. And what does that mean? It really means creating the blueprints, advancing processes, best practice to ensure frictionless interaction across our commercial activities. In essence, our members are the coalface in the fight against fraud and the ability to transact in a successful and frictionless way.
Thank you, Christian.
Yes.
Hello.
Hi, Suzy.
Hello.
Hello again.
Hello again. I3 Forum. I mean, I3 Forum has been in the industry, I mean, for as long as voice has been the big business of this industry. So, but the I3 Forum has evolved over the years. So I'd really like to hear from you as to obviously what you do at I3 Forum, but you as a whole as well, what I3 Forum is up to.
Yeah. So the I3 Forum actually was founded in 2008, so maybe not as old as Voice, but a few years. And it's a non-profit organization that is really focused at the wholesale international market industry between carriers. We tackled multiple topics, one of the big one naturally being fraud. Voice and messaging fraud. We also have other work groups that look at numbering plan, market data, trying to do benchmarking tools, and so on. We do a lot of recommendation. We participate to multiple initiatives. We launched recently the Restore Trust initiative, which I think is very important for the industry. So yeah, a lot of activity in the I3 Forum and still evolving very fast.
Dario, thank you very much, Christian. Dario, do I really need to introduce you?
Well, potentially, a lot of people understand out there. So who knows that if MEF, the mobile ecosystem forum, starts as a mobile entertainment forum, same time as Laurie, 2000, 2001, we're probably, and a graphical, we've got similar association there. And it starts when things were changing. And they've been changing since, because voice was the main thing, and all of a sudden you had SMS and then data and many other things, and that change hasn't stopped. So we were born as a known trade association, meaning there are multiple trades under our umbrella, and we like people to think of new definitions, discuss new things. Because, as we were saying, well, the world out there is changing. Probably we, as the players in that world, are changing too.
Yeah, absolutely. So the world is changing, as you mentioned. The industry is changing. Hence, the us around here and the number of trade forums that exist in this industry. Some of you have 2 caps. Some of you are very active in your own jobs as part of as a wholesale player. Some of you have 2 caps. You're very present in the forum space. So with the visibility that you have and the possibility also to not only be very close to all these players, but also have those balcony moments that an industry forum has with regards to what's going on in the industry. I would really like to hear from you as to how you see the wholesale industry transforming, evolving. We've been also hearing a lot with in the previous panels of the technology taking an increasingly role in how the business is handled in industry, but also how it impacts fraud and how we can manage fraud. So, from your perspective, how do you see the wholesale industry transforming from a digital perspective, and what do you see the key challenges of that industry being today? So, if I could start with Christian, maybe.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Suzy.
Taking you by surprise.
Yeah, took me by surprise. Yeah, that's okay. Well, from my point of view, the industry is changing actually very fast and in multiple ways, in multiple systems. I think one of the key thing we see also that has started a few years ago is this blur between wholesale and retail and enterprise segments that are a lot less defined than they used to be, and a lot of the challenges we're facing as an industry are related to that definition of the segments and this lack of clarity between the segment. I also think that unfortunately we've seen in the recent years a challenge with an increase. I think that was discussed in the previous panel of fraud, but also a reduction of trust in the international communication space, and I think that's impacting all of us. And on top of that, I think it's not only fraud; it's unsolicited messaging or calls that are impacting us, that are impacting the public. So while we are in the wholesale industry, then suddenly we're in an environment where we're impacting directly the public, the consumer at home that is receiving those messages and calls that are not, welcome. And it creates an environment where the challenge is much bigger to solve than it used to be in that type of challenges. Also, as you said, Suzy, I think technology is evolving very fast. We see 5G coming big time towards us, and I think that's going to have a huge impact on the wholesale industry and its practice and even its business model. So I think that all that, these for me are the key challenges and key changes I see currently in the industry.
Well, good. Thank you very much, Christian. At least what I'm really happy with is that all of those topics that you mentioned, we will be talking about them obviously in this round, but we have a specific session on the blurry lines of wholesale and retail coming up tomorrow. 5G will be a big topic for us also tomorrow, but we can clearly see that it is a very, very big topic on the agenda of wholesalers these days. The fraud, I mean, this has been, if you've been hearing or listening to following this event today, has been very high on the agenda. We've had James moderating greatly a number of these panels where we really dug into it. So yes, it is indeed an issue, and it's interesting to hear that some of those you see as key challenges and looking into it in I3 Forum. Moving on to Simon, would you agree with first Christian? Do you see the same thing I know you're looking at it, your forum obviously involves a lot of people who have to get their hands dirty on the back office scene to handle all the key trends that we are hearing here today. Would you see also the topics that Christian mentioned as being core on the agenda of the GSE?
Yes, very much so. I mean, I think that's something that we all share here. We're touching on broadly the same subjects, but with our particular flavors. I mean, from a GSE perspective, and also wearing my carrier hat, looking at it from a purely operational business viewpoint, I think we've come quite a long way in a relatively short space of time. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, in a high-tech industry where we were, using pretty Stone Age practices to transact. I mean, we were sending each other faxes about 10 years ago with commercial information. It's incredible to even believe that we were doing such a thing. So, I mean, there has been a shift. I think, system vendors have moved with the times. We're sort of, we have a bit of a technical debt when it comes to what it is we're doing our business over compared to how we're doing our business. But that shift has certainly been felt. But obviously, at the same time, for instance, fraudsters, the sort of methods of fraud that are being perpetrated have become more sophisticated, which then requires us to be more sophisticated in rooting it out and putting a stop to it. So, we're at a situation where margin is at a premium, the industry is shrinking, margin is at a premium, cash flow is at a premium, and we can and should do better. And that's what we're really trying to give our members the opportunity to realize that potential, because it's otherwise it's a one-way street, and we need to avoid that and maintain our relevance.
Mm-hmm. Laurie, how do you see this from Telecom's risk perspective? What's your take on this? Where do you see that industry? How do you see this industry evolving?
Well, a good place to start actually is just to say that our members are the credit and risk professionals in your organisations, and I agree. The wholesale industry has been changing massively. We go back and look at when we do talk about accounts. We do talk about how people are paying, and once upon a time we were only talking about accounts that were doing voice and data. And now that is changing, that's evolved. We've got mobility and SMS and a lot of other things come into play. And also the makeup of who our members are selling to is changing as well. So the smaller players, we're getting non-telecom companies coming into the mix as well. And all of that, it means that there's a different financial challenges on how we deal with those accounts. And the fraudster is out there all the time in every level. So we're looking always at sharing what works, the best practices, and trying to build those new practices all the time to see whether we actually stay one step ahead, but also to get the money in the bank.
Thank you very much. Annabel, on the GLF side, a lot has been said about obviously fraud. I guess this is also a topic you handle. Do you see this topic as being key in the work streams that the GLF is working on? How do your membership base, which is quite broad, see the industry changing on your side?
Thank you, Suzy. And I'm just going to zoom out a little bit, because I think in the GLF we've got a bit of a broader perspective to some of the other organisations here today, because we kind of start with the customer use case demand and then the implications from a network perspective. So our guiding principle, we published a paper last year called Tomorrow's Telco, which effectively outlines kind of the 7 requirements and capabilities that we think networks and international network providers are going to need to be able to deliver kind of in the next, in the medium term effectively. We strongly believe that future connectivity is going to need to meet customer requirements end to end, kind of regardless of the network provider. And that means that new partnership models, new collaborative mechanisms are going to need to be put in place. And that's kind of up and downstream across the whole value chain. From a fraud perspective, and in fact, dialing back to when Christian was a GLF board member, he was the chair of the GLF working group for fraud for many years. We're about to publish, so next week, we've got our 6th annual report that tracks the state of fraud for international telecoms for both voice and messaging. We have a joint code of conduct with the i3 Forum, with a number of signatories. I think we're up to 45 signatories now for the Code of Conduct, which is fantastic. And we have an attestation process, which is our way of trying to enforce and instill the principles contained within. We have 6 principles contained within the Code of Conduct across the industry. So fraud is a really key piece for us to tackle. Obviously, there is a lot of work and a lot of focus on messaging and SMS, especially when it relates to AIT. And I know there's been a lot of conversation today, right now, around how we, as Christian said, instill and restore trust in those channels, right? Because that's going to be critical for us as an industry.
Indeed, so thank you very much for this, and indeed, we see the connectivity end to end, and the which is a much broader perspective, and so important for all those services to be able to be provided in a such satisfactory manner. Dario, you said that obviously you were the one saying the world is changing. We've heard the views of the different forums here. Obviously, MEF is a strong player in supporting that change. Can you give us your views as to how deep you've seen this world changing, and also what is MEF doing and how we are contributing, and really what I would like to hear from you and all of you in this panel is, for someone who is listening to all those forums, we do understand that there is a lot being done by all the forums in the industry, but how do you differentiate what one does versus the other? What do we bring and why all these forums? So if I can just throw the ball at you, Dario, but eager to have your views as to how we can be strong as forums for the sake of our carrier community.
Thank you, Suzy. 2 questions, and I suspect half an hour, right? That should be
almost.
Well, first, let's start from very easy. But you asked me about the wholesale and the change. It's very easy almost to summarize what has been said right now, because it's a lot of good stuff out there. So I was saying that everything is changing in telecom and this world, which is more than telecom by now. Potentially, wholesale, it could be the perfect storm for, because we are changing the products. We've seen it. We're moving from voice, data, security is another layer. We are adding new things now, exciting things on top of. So that's already is a big thing. But we've heard it before that the processes are changing because of the efficiency of the drivers. And I think the players that are involved in, it's not black and white. Who are you right now? The value chain has changed as well. So the structure, the things that we used to believe was a doctrine before in wholesale is not anymore. We'll have to reassess what we do, how we do it, who we are. It's a lot of philosophical questions, and I don't want to go there right now. And I do think that MEF is helping that by bringing together the different players. As I said, wholesale, it is wholesale, but internet players are carriers right now, and carriers are doing services. And the ecosystem now is so complex about virtualizations and everything else, which we don't know exactly where companies or services start or end. So all of that comes together. MEF is a place where we try to look from the different perspectives. Well, let's be fair. We sit down and we have that discussion to enrich. So by taking everybody together, we believe we enrich other people's perspective. Potentially, we create some of those end-to-end analyses that potentially might be very good right now. For instance, you asked me what we do. We provide frameworks. I've seen today being referred for messaging, the fraud framework, but equivalent, you could say that in content, in the VAS, we've done it. Best practices, code of conduct, again, we have a few of those. So all of those are the contribution from different parts of the ecosystem coming together and bringing their perspective.
Simon, I'd like to actually go to you and ask the same question. Where do you again, what are the value that you as an organization bring to this industry, and why do you see, from your perspective, where do you see the value in having our so many foreign colleagues here? You're on mute, I think.
Many people ask, why are there so many forums? Why is Carrier X in all of them or some of them? But I mean, as we've established at the outset here, each grouping has their own speciality. I mean, if you take fraud as the most salient example, so the GLF is effectively stating what is the industry objective. This is a sort of call to action for the industry. We need to get around this. Then you have I3 and MEF for voice and messaging, sort of crafting the guidelines and the principles to sort of enshrine this industry desire. Then you have the GSC, which is a sort of day-to-day work and actually putting these measures into place. And then that's all underpinned sort of commercially, how that's governed by ITRF and that work. So everything is in sync. We're not treading on each other's toes. We're all fundamentally fulfilling the same overall objective, but adding our respective speciality to the equation, which, we're not doing the same thing, even though to the untrained eye, it might look like that's the case. But, I'm pretty clear that there's, and the fact that we are actively reaching out to each other, collaborating, we're ensuring that there's no overlap, but ensuring that we're actually bringing the best out of our expertise, respectively. I think that's hugely important, and that's just fraud, and it could be applied to all sorts of other different scenarios and will continue to be so. So whatever the challenge, there is a role for these organizations to play. It's not as if the same individual is representing the same company in each of these. You've got experts in your organizations who are doing and participating actively in this work. And I think it's essential that we maintain that momentum and that spirit of collaboration.
Christian, would you agree? How would you see this? And also, if I could ask you, what makes you happy in the way the industry is mobilizing those trade forum initiatives?
Yeah, I totally agree with Simon. His view is exactly what I would have thought also. All those forums exist for a reason. There's a need for collaboration in the industry. I remember when I was heading the voice and messaging group at Tata, we were members of all the organizations that are sitting here, and there was a reason for that, is because we needed to be, and they each address a different topic, so I think what Simon described is very correct and aligned with that. And in terms of making me happy, well, many things, but regarding this industry, I would say collaboration is key for me, right? So I think that we need to continue to collaborate between industry organization. We've recently, I'm going back to my little pet project, Restore Trust, and one consortium initiative where we call everyone to participate, all the organization. And I think the success of the initiative we're doing against fraud, unsolicited call, changing to 5G, whatever, comes from us working together to really help the industry. Ultimately, this is all we want. We want to help the industry and provide better services to the customer of this industry. So that's where I see we're going.
Yes, thank you, Annabel. I'd like to leave, at least have you and Laurie and eventually Dario to close this session. But just a few words. You've heard a lot about the collaboration in the industry. You have a very broad ecosystem. Would you share those comments?
Yes, I do. I think it's one of those things, right? As the industry dynamic is changing and shifting and transforming, as we've spoken about today, new partnerships, new collaborations are required. And that's at an industry association level as much as it is kind of within the industry itself. We're known, I'm deeply conscious that we share members with lots of other forums, and that's perfect, because that means that we can tackle issues from different angles and achieve more impact on behalf of our members. But it is really beholden on us, and I know that it is important to everybody on this call that we are maximizing the resource and the time of members that participate within our working groups, so that we are complementing each other's work and not duplicating. And I think that is really beholden and something that I know that we take very seriously, as does everybody else on this call, because that is the only way that we're going to be serving our members' best objectives, you know, effectively to meet these requirements head on.
Thank you. Laurie, last word on how you see this collaboration from your perspective. Have you really felt this growing? You're on mute. You're on mute, Laurie.
Can you hear me? Am I frozen?
You can go ahead.
Can you hear me now? I've not touched anything.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, good. Right. I was saying that Simon's summary was excellent, and yeah, we are new to the party, and I think when I went to the GSC Athens conference, it really opened my eyes that one, that how many organizations there were, but also that collaboration is so key in today's environment. We're all part of that. We describe it as order to cash cycle, and we all play a part in there, and we all work with each other in one way or another and support each other. And yeah, we're in a world of constant change, and I think the only way forward is to collaborate. So so it's great to be on this panel today.
Dario, that's a very good last sentence, isn't it?
Sure. I mean, again, let's Simon did such a good job. I think my metaphor would be we're equivalent of a garage trying to fix a car. You know, what is this wrench doing? What is this for? Yet they all serve a purpose, and if you know how to use it and so on, that's where we really can fine-tune the answers for different questions. We need to work together, because one instrument by itself is unlikely to have the end result. And that's, you know, what is great. And thank you all for accepting our invitation today. Well, Suzy invitations. I think it's great that we talk. We have a vision. I'm sure we need to improve things we do on a constant base, but it's great that the industry can come together and work to common goals.
Absolutely. So thank you very much to all of you. It was important to have that perspective from the different forums in this industry. It's important also to highlight that, you know, collaboration within the industry is key. We've heard of it today many times, but it's even more important amongst forums that support that industry. So from MEF, a warm thank you for being with us today, and surely we'll have you on stage soon. Thank you to all of you, and talk to you next week if you're at capacity.
Yeah. All right. See you.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.